Today, we are speaking with Dr. Peter Marks, the director of the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research at the United States Food and Drug Administration. Welcome, Dr. Marks.
Nice to be here. Thanks very much.
You bet. So, uh, Peter, I don't have to tell you that so many of the conferences that we all attend tend to be relatively one-dimensional, focused on a particular topic or organ, disease, and so forth. What do you think is the value of this kind of Vatican conference that brings together people from so many different disciplines?
Yeah, I've always been a believer in cross-pollination. And even in my daily work life, have tried to have a diverse group of people who bring different perspectives. It's amazing how sometimes the attorneys who work in my office sometimes have the most insightful thoughts about things that actually pertain to science. And I know that's the fact for some of the people who are attending this conference. So it doesn't matter what initials are after your name. It really matters, what experience and what exuberance you bring to the topic that you're dealing with.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't had their out of the box thinking beaten out of them by years in that one silo.
Exactly.
So obviously the FDA always has to walk this line between approving something quickly or in a timely fashion and making sure that it is safe and efficacious, effectiveness. But for rare diseases, a lot of people say we don't have the time for that. We're willing to, for lack of a better term, be guinea pigs. What has the FDA done or doing to try to accelerate treatments for rare diseases?
So there are things that we're doing right now, and that there are things we are continuing to do for the future. Right now, we're very careful when we think about rare diseases to really look at the risk benefits and uncertainties as we think about whether a current therapy should be given regulatory approval. But I very much hear, particularly as we move ahead towards gene therapies and cell-based gene therapies for rare diseases, that we probably will need to find some other paradigms to use to be able to move through these approvals more quickly. Some of them may be by using modifications on how we conduct clinical trials, by using novel clinical designs. Some of them may be about how we think about reusing manufacturing information so that we can streamline what has to be submitted for regulatory approval. But we very much hear the need here. And I think, although we don't have all the solutions, we're very committed towards working together to help find them.
You mentioned novel paradigms or a different way of looking at things, and clearly our experience with COVID-19 and approval of vaccines looks like a new paradigm in a sense there. Are there lessons that we can take away from this past year that we can apply to, for example, rare disease approvals, rare disease drug approvals or treatments?
I think there are two major things. There are probably many different things, but I can think of two right off the bat. First of all, I think that people who are thinking about developing specific products in this area should come in and speak to the agency early on. I think we can provide very helpful advice so that people don't have false starts and get into issues that lead them to have to retread ground that is not productive. The other thing I think that what we've learned is that it really helps to have a very holistic view of development from beginning to end when you're starting off. In other words, try to understand where you're going. Now, you might not always follow that path, but I think that all too often disease development of products for rare diseases, it kind of goes from one thing to the other, just trying to get through each hurdle at a time without looking at the course of hurdles. And I think it probably is good to step back and look at the number of hurdles you have to get over and try to kind of come up with a general approach to these before going off.
That's great advice, and we really appreciate this sort of new sense of collaboration between the FDA and pharma and drug and treatment developers, because that I think makes everybody feel a little better about it, and it moves much more quickly. Dr. Peter Marks, thank you so much for your time and your insight, and we look forward to hearing more from you.
Thanks very much for having me again.